So I'm back. Here we are. So we're going to talk about price. Price is the amount of money consumers are willing to pay. We talked about how you price a product, but now we're going to talk about pricing. So um, again, uh, you do want to price your product according to the positioning that you want to make that product. Very, very important. So in this example, Oakley positions its sunglasses as innovative, state of the art, so it's a little bit higher, as are say Gucci sunglasses. Ray-Bans are at a certain price point as well. They're sort of higher end, always sort of in that late hundreds to lower 200s, whereas you might buy a Gucci that's 400 or 500. So again, pricing is something that you have to base on your product, even though, by the way, there's only one manufacturer of sunglasses in the world, and yet and that's who you go to do it. Anyway, as something to think about. So, oops, sorry, I already did that. So next is promotion. So where am I going to sell the product? How am I going to sell the product? Okay, so there's lots of different ways of doing it. Well, advertising is one, and advertising is a very costly way to do it because you have to pay money in order to get people to purchase the product, and you don't know all the time whether it's going to work or not. So it does where here are some of the pluses. It raises awareness, the product's comparative features and benefits can be determined, creates association between a product and a certain lifestyle, because you can create these images of what you think that lifestyle is of that consumer, and they identify, and then they purchase. However, one of the things is low credibility. That's something that's very interesting. However, I will tell you something fascinating. When I used to do my business and businesses that I ran for others, and even though I would do a lot of PR, which we're going to talk about, what was the thing? People, even though it was PR, people said, "Oh well, when you advertised." No, 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 that was PR. People don't get the difference between what PR and advertising is. Anyway, the reason I mention that is because advertising tends to have a lower credibility rate. Well, you're paying for this, so you obviously need to attract customers. Well, that's true, but and that's why influencers in today's world is so important, because that is what builds that credibility. Of course, people don't always know how influencers work, but nevertheless. The possibility that a high percentage of people who see the ad will not be interested, that's very true, because it's hard to target an ad specifically. The message gets cluttered within a bunch of other messages, absolutely. Relative costliness compared to other forms of promotion, yes, it's quite expensive, and the perception that advertising is intrusive, yes. Sometimes, like if you, even on YouTube, if you go and it's so annoying, all those ads, right? So you're going, oh God, I don't want to, let me just skip this thing, right? So that's one of the reasons advertising can be a challenge. However, we're still doing it. We're still doing it. So steps involved in putting together an ad. Well, here is something important. Again, this is the kind of thing that you need to think about when you are thinking about advertising. You identify the purpose of that. What is it that I'm trying to do? Who is it going to be sold to? What method am I going to do? What method? I absolutely love radio advertising, especially because, especially if you're in the car and you commute a lot, there's a really good place to target if it's the right audience, of course, because again, it's all about who the audience is. But millennials, for example, obviously they're probably not listening to radio, and if they are listening to radio, they're listening to music, and maybe they even have their Spotify on or something like that, so they're not necessarily listening to ads. So you have to be really clear about where are my customers, so that if I do advertise, they are actually going to see what I'm selling. Then you have to create it based on a budget and who your audience is and so on, and select a place and time for the ad to appear. Again, where is it going to show up? How is it going to show up? That's why YouTube is a really good medium these days, because because people are on there. So really understanding the customer and what the customer is doing, and then fulfill the product. So make sure that there's enough product on hand if people are purchasing it. By the way, one of the things that I will mention is, and this goes into sort of PR, and really, which is sort of one of the next things that we're going to talk about. Um, a lot of people who go on Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, they go on there really to promote their products. So this piece about the fulfillment is very important, because if you don't have enough product when people are buying, that's going to be annoying. Right now, as you can see with the supply chain issues that are going on in the world, it's a big problem. So another thing to think about is the whole world of how ads are created. So this is the whole pay-per-click kind of concept. Okay, so the Google AdWords. So if someone's Googling you, you have to pay for these Google AdWord things. So think about that a little bit. So AdSense allows advertisers to buy ads that will be shown on other websites instead of Google. So advertisers are charged again. It's all this pay-per-click that needs to be done. You're going to learn again more more about this in your marketing and communications class. However, it's the kind of thing that I would highly recommend if you're really going to be running a business, you learn more about. Learn about these types of techniques, and I can talk to you a little bit further about that in the class. This is my favorite just because I really like PR. I like PR because it creates a buzz without having to spend a lot of money. And that's what when I was running my business and when I was doing things for other companies, I really focused a lot on the PR aspect, because I really like trying to create hooks. That's what it's called. Trying to create a hook that someone is going to pick up, like the media is going to pick up and talk about. I really like PR. And one of the things that Humber is really good at is we have one of the best PR programs in Canada. So if you're ever interested in maybe learning a little bit more, you might want to, talk to one of the PR students and get some ideas from them, because they are really, really strong students and a fantastic program. So press releases is one of the things. It's done a little bit differently today, because even though we still do press releases, it's still done a little bit differently. There's the other thing that we used to do was a lot of drop-offs back in the day, where you would take a product and drop it off at a radio station and hope that they would pick up on it. That's sort of what one of the techniques in PR. Of course, social media coverage is really important. Writing periodicals, blogging, doing monthly newsletters, and getting involved in the community is another really good sort of PR technique. But we can talk again. These are the kinds of things that we could talk more about in the class if you're interested. Of course, social media, incredibly important. You're all familiar with that. Finding the right social media avenue for your product is critical. Blogging, putting blogs even into your websites, getting involved in social media, Twitter ads, Facebook ads, Instagram, all that, and understanding who looks at these types of ads. Like, for example, Facebook. Most millennials don't even look at Facebook anymore. At least that's what they're claiming. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's what they're claiming. And knowing that Pinterest is 80% women. So again, these kinds of information that you've got to gather when you're looking at the different mediums. So very, very, very critical in terms of doing your uh, when you're putting your marketing plans together. So viral marketing is interesting. Now, it's tough to get viral marketing. This is where things just kind of blow up, right? Um, one of the teams mentioned that one of the companies that they had investigated was doing guerrilla marketing. So look into guerrilla marketing, which is that low cost, um, uh, high impact guerrilla marketing, where you're kind of coming up with new creative ideas. And I'm big on sort of guerrilla marketing as well, because usually when I'm doing things, I just don't have a lot of money. So it's one of those low budget things, and it's more about being unique and critical. And this is where your creativity and your innovative thinking can really come in. And the viral marketing, well, you in some ways you just have to get lucky. Um, there are, you can Google how to create a viral marketing campaign, but at the end of the day, it's hard to create because you don't know what's going to hit. Um, the distribution is very important. Where am I going to sell the product? Am I going to sell it direct to the consumer, so business to business, or business to consumer? But then there's also business to consumer, and then there's also business to consumer to business. So like there's lots of different B to C scenarios that go on, which you will learn about. So selling direct, am I going to sell it directly to the customer or through some kind of distribution channel? That's something that you can think about. And the other thing that's very popular today is consumer to consumer, right? So I'm selling a product to you. Okay, so what I'm creating, if I'm creating a product, I'm the app developer. Let's just say I'm creating the platform where consumers can sell to consumers, right? Or businesses can sell to businesses. And I can talk to you further about that because that's something that I'm involved in right at the moment. So again, you've got the producer and the consumer. So again, this is one of the ways of doing it, or you sell it through the producer, who the wholesaler, to the retailer, to the consumer. So again, this is a B to C, and this is B to B to B to C. Okay, so again, these are just different methods of selling. Now, the sales process, this is very interesting because this is where, of course, at the end of the day, you don't have sales, you don't have a business. So this is very, very important. So let's look at the sales process. So you have to do what they call prospecting, finding out who is going to buy my product. And this is interesting because there's lots of ways of creating these sales leads. Today, and one of the companies that I'm hoping to have as a part of your capstone is using LinkedIn totally to get sales leads. Our friend, the entrepreneur coach, she's using LinkedIn to get her sales leads. So how you get those sales leads has changed over the years as well, in terms of how that actually happens. Then you have to make initial contact, then you have to qualify the lead. What do I mean by that? Qualifying means, are they really interested in buying? Are they tire kickers? Are they really people that are ultimately interested in buying? You can make the sales presentation to them. You can meet objections and concerns. You can deal with that. You can close the sale, and then you follow up. I also have a little a platform that I can show you in the class about another way of doing it, which is current, which is what I call the reverse pyramid method, where you get a lot of people coming in at the top and then you sell to them at the bottom. Um, and you do that through a number of different methods. So you'll see that especially on social media today. They hook you, right? They hook you in. They say, "Hey, come to a free webinar, come and listen, learn about our product," and then they give you some kind of a 24-hour, 12-hour, 6-hour promotion, and you buy. And that's sort of the way they do it. So that's a sales process as well, by the way. Um, uh, but it's usefulness of a sales process. Well, you need to figure out how you're going to do this. think about the sales process and how you would like to do this. There's lots of different methods, and we could talk about various methods that are out there, but this is one of the things that you really need to think about. And that actually concludes our marketing uniqueness section. And hopefully we can chat